streaming, but then I wanna shut the mics, right?
The Township Council Workshop, Monday, April 13th, 2020, is now called to order. Before we do the salute of the flag, after we do the salute of the flag, please remain standing for the 2,443 residents that we lost to this horrible virus, as well as to Michael Burke, who has served our community for over 48 years of dedicated service as a firefighter and active member of Signac Fire Company Number 3 within the Little Falls Department. He was the current president of Signac Fire Company Number 3 for the past 26 years, along with the president of the Little Falls Fire Department for 14 years. His level of commitment and dedication was unmeasurable to the Township of Little Falls. He will be sadly missed. May he rest in peace. Please raise for the salute to the flag, Councilman Vincherry.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic and
for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with truth and justice for all.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Please be seated. Mrs. Kraus, can you please read the statement of public notice?
take notice that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with NJSA 10:4-10 as follows. The notice of the meeting was prominently posted on the bulletin board at the municipal building located at 225 Main Street, Little Falls, New Jersey on January 9th, 2020. A copy of the notice was faxed to the North Jersey Herald and News and the Record on the same date. Additionally, a copy of the notice was filed in the office of the Township Clerk on said date. This meeting is being conducted under the circumstances surrounding the COVID-19 health situation. No public will be allowed to attend the meeting in person. A YouTube link to view this meeting can be accessed on the Township website at www.lfnj.com. Electronic provisions have been established for the public to participate during the public comment portion of the meeting.
Thank you. Mrs. Kraus, please call the roll at this time.
Councilmember Cordner? Present. Councilmember Kawadi?
Present.
Councilmember Sieber? Present. Councilmember Vanchery?
Present.
Council President Scoba?
Present. Please note for the record that Chief Post is present as well as Councilor Wenzel. Mayor Damiano.
Thank you, Council President. As some residents know, and is posted on our website and through various forms of social media, I declared a state of emergency in the Township of Little Falls, retroactive to March 14th, 2020, the date of the first official declaration made by our governor with respect to New Jersey and the current health and virus crisis. This was done in with the intent to ensure that in the event any funding does become available for the municipality, whether it be through federal programs, be it FEMA, or any sort of reimbursements through the state that may become available, we want to ensure that the municipality is able to collect and receive the maximum amount of funding from the federal and state governments. This includes expenses such as personal protective equipment, various things that have been expenditures outside the norm for us here in Little Falls in our fight with this virus. So it is something that we have done. It is not a real reason for alarm, more than the alarm has already been rung for the health crisis, as most people are very familiar with now. However, it was done, again, with the intention of ensuring that any funding that may become available can be recaptured by the municipality. That said, I have a brief update also with respect to where we stand presently in Little Falls. As of yesterday afternoon, we had a total report of 66 confirmed cases here in Little Falls. There is some dispute as to whether or not there are various numbers on the county postings, the state postings, versus the municipal recordings of numbers. And there is an explanation for it, although insufficient to some. And the explanation for that is simply that the number that the municipality is reporting comes from the Clifton Health Department, who is our health department, our contractual health department here in Little Falls. I believe they deserve our applause. They've been doing an outstanding job in their follow-up for all of the cases that we've had here. Some of the numbers that you see that may be higher have not had the same level of follow-up that we have had with the Clifton Health Department and the locally reported numbers. And the reason that I mention this is because there are a number of cases that you may see on the county or state website that appear to be positive. However, after follow-up by the Clifton Health Department, it turns out that those individuals do not reside here in Little Falls. They've moved several years ago or what have you. So the most accurate figures, as I believe them, are from the Clifton Health Department. And again, I thank them and applaud them for their efforts in the amount of work that they have been doing in such a short period of time and with such a limited staff. That said, I will have an additional update posted a little bit later on for our April 13th numbers, but the 66 confirmed cases are as of yesterday afternoon. That said, and as we heard from Council President, today we have the unfortunate and heartbreaking task of informing you of the first confirmed passing of a resident due to COVID-19. The resident was a loved and well-known 64-year-old male and a first responder here in town. On behalf of myself, the Township Council, and the entire community, I extend my deepest condolences to the entire family and loved ones. We ask that Mike Burke and his family be kept in your hearts, thoughts, and prayers. May God bless him. As another PSA, there are a number of people who may have tested positive, that they themselves have been made aware that they have tested positive, but are not yet reflected on the numbers, whether it be the state, county, or local health department's figures. If you have tested positive at a testing site, a hospital, a various institution who is providing legitimate COVID testing, and you have not yet been contacted by the Clifton Health Department, I am asking you to please contact the Clifton Health Department as quickly and soon as possible. This is important because your name and address is then reported to a database that only one individual actually knows the addresses of, and that is our police chief. But the issue here is if a call is reported and you require assistance at your house to ensure the maximum protection for all of our first responders, we want to ensure that your name and address, or really that your address is reported in our system so that our first responders know. And although they are taking the maximum precaution at every single call that they are responding to now, it just gives them one additional peace of mind to know that they have absolutely taken every necessary and possible precaution when responding to your address in the event a call for distress or additional help is needed at some point. So please contact the Clifton Health Department if you have tested positive but have not yet received a call from them. That said, we have a number of executive orders that have been entered by the governor since the last meeting that we've had here and since my last report. I have been providing updates on the website, lfnj.com, as well as various forms of social media with all of the information that we do receive here in town. That said, on April 8th, 2020, there were several executive orders that were entered. I'm only going to provide to you a very brief description of what they stated. But if you have questions, please read them in their entirety. You can find them online. They're posted on various sites. And if you still have questions or need clarity, please feel free to reach out to myself, and I can try to get you some additional clarity on them if I cannot answer the question myself. One of those was that all essential retail establishments which were permitted to remain open must indefinitely limit the number of customers allowed in their stores to no more than 50% of their approved fire capacity. Additionally, customers and employees must wear face coverings. Stores must also provide special shopping hours for high-risk individuals, erect physical barriers between customers and cashiers and baggers where practicable, and regularly sanitize areas used by their employees, as well as additional requirements, but that was the crux of that executive order. There was also a stop put to all non-essential construction across New Jersey, requiring it to cease indefinitely, effective 8 p.m. this past Friday. There are a number of exceptions, so just because you see construction does not mean what is occurring is illegal. For example, any hospitals or school projects or transportation projects, public utility sector, and building of affordable housing is permitted to continue. Again, there are a number of additional provisions included in there, including the number of workers that are permitted on site, but all government-funded, whether it be local up to federal, state-funded projects, are permitted to continue during this time. I have also received numerous questions regarding let me continue with the executive orders first. There are, on April 7th, 2020, the governor signed 4 additional executive orders. One of them extended the public health emergency declared on March 9th for an additional 30 days. That brings us well into April. There was another that closed all state and county parks effective that evening. Another extended certain deadlines for school districts whose April elections were postponed until May 12th. It's intended to provide enough time to certify their budgets and make staffing decisions. And the fourth waived the 2019-2020 school year assessment requirements for 8th and 12th grade students, and was intended to prevent students from being left behind or penalized as a result of COVID-19. Again, with respect to the reporting here in Little Falls, there are a number of cases that individuals have questioned with respect to them being labeled under investigation. And the health department is still in the process of following up with these individuals and obtaining this data. However, one of the issues that we've run into, especially in a number of the earlier cases, is that the information that individuals were providing was not good, recent information with respect to their address or their phone number. For example, a number of people would show their license that had them residing at a particular address. However, they'd recently moved and not told the healthcare tester that they had moved, and the address that they have going back to the health department who's doing the investigation was bad. Also, there have been a number of people that provided home phone numbers rather than cell phones and don't have home phones in their house that are working or that they pick up. So they are continuing to do these investigations and getting through the weeds on those particularities. But that is the reason that you see under investigation on a number of the labels in the spreadsheets that are being provided on the case-by-case breakdowns. Anyone that does receive a call from the Clifton Health Department, please be advised that they will never ask for your social security number over the phone. If somebody is calling and advising that they are from the Clifton Health Department and requesting your social security number, immediately hang up and report it to the police department. They will never ask for your social security number. That said, again, please visit lfnj.com for additional updates that are being provided daily. There's additional links that you can visit that are provided through the CDC on the DIY face coverings if you don't have an N95 mask or a hospital-grade mask for yourself. There are a number of things that the CDC is recommending, such as bandanas, scarves, etc. But to review the particular guidelines, please again visit the CDC's website, which in the link can be found on the lfnj.com website. Again, all of the things that we've been trying to impress upon, and not here locally, but more so nationally and through the state, that we've been trying to impress upon the residents, use common sense in that limit the amount of time that you are out. Limit the amount of time that you have contact with additional people out in the public where you can contract this virus. Wash your hands constantly. Follow all of the guidelines provided by the CDC, and do what you can and do your part to flatten this curve. I can only hope that the reports that we're seeing on TV lately, on the national and statewide news, is accurate and true, that they're starting to see a flattening of the curve. But we cannot become lackadaisical now. We cannot take for granted that the curve is flattening. It is only happening because of everybody doing their part recently. Please do not think that just because the curve is flattening, that you can go out now and that you're immune to this disease or this virus. You're not. So please do your part. Please stay home when you can, and please constantly wash your hands and do what you can to help stop spreading this. That is all that I have on my COVID update this evening that was not previously provided. If you are looking for information regarding township departments, it is provided on the website. All of that stuff, while there have been some minor changes since my last report, if you're able to view this meeting live, I would certainly hope that you are able to also visit the website, because the links are digital, and I would believe you would have the ability to at least view all of the updates that are being provided regarding all of our departments. So some of the times have changed, but I'm not going to bore everybody with all of those updates as well. Please visit the website for all of that information. That's all that I have this evening on my COVID update, Council President.
Thank you, Mayor, for that very extensive report. Does the council have any questions or comment regarding the mayor's comments? Can I have a motion to open the meeting for public matters?
So moved. So moved.
It was moved by Council Member Coordinator, second by Council Member Kawadi. Mrs. Kraus, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. Mrs. Kraus, can you please read the statement?
Anyone wishing to address the Township Council may do so by sending an email to ckraus@lfnj.com. The email must provide your name and address for the record. At this time, there will be a 10-minute recess, which will allow the public to send comments and questions via email. At the end of the recess, the meeting will reconvene and all proper emails will be read into the record. The Council President will determine if a response is needed, and if so, shall direct said response. Once the process is complete, we will return to the regular order of business.
At this time, we will take our 10-minute recess to wait for any email comments or questions. Thank you. Okay, we're back. Mayor, has any emails been forwarded regarding public comment for all matters?
Yes, so far there have been several questions. The first is from Mr. Luis Fernandez, 54 Harrison Street. Has the mayor and council gave any consideration to delaying payment of the second quarter tax bill to ease the financial burden on the residents in this difficult time?
Mayor, do you want to address that's on our agenda tonight?
Sure. So I may use this opportunity now to explain to Mr. Fernandez, as well as everyone, including the council, exactly what is on the agenda as Resolution B this evening, establishing the rate of interest for delinquent taxes. And this resolution that I am asking that the council entertain this evening is a resolution that would fix the interest rate for delinquent taxes to 0%. It will fix it to 0% until a new resolution is passed, which then modifies the interest back to either what we previously had it at or what is within the state guidelines. Presently, the municipality has the interest rate at the maximum interest rate permitted by the state, which is 8% on the first $1,500 of delinquency and 18% on any amount over $1,500 delinquent. What this resolution would do this evening is fix a 0% interest rate on the entire payment for this next quarter until the council adopts a resolution that modifies the interest rate. Now, what is critical and crucial for the council as well as everyone in the public to understand is that once the new resolution is passed, fixing a new interest rate, which there will be advance notice of by this municipality, once that new resolution is passed, if you had not made your tax payment by the date that the new resolution establishing a new interest rate is instituted or passed, you will be assessed interest retroactive to the original due date of the tax payment, so May 1st for this quarter, and again every 3 months after that, as are the normal tax dates. So, for example, if you are unable to make your May 1st tax payment, and you cannot make it until June 1st or June 15th or some date further out, you will be assessed a 0% interest rate on that amount owed. However, if the pandemic is over, God willing, sooner rather than later, and by July 1st, and again, it may not be a council date on that meeting, but July 1st, assuming that was a council meeting, this council were to pass a resolution reestablishing the interest rates. If somebody has not made their payment by that date, the entire amount of interest will be assessed as if it's late and as if this resolution had never been passed in the first place, assessing them interest at 8% on the first $1,500 and 18% on any amount over that, retroactive to May 1st of this year. Now, we are doing this, and there is precedent for this to be done, and I want to make that clear. This has been done by the local finance boards in the past under Local Finance Order WTC 2010T, and that may sound familiar because in 2001, as many are aware, the World Trade Center was struck, and following the disaster at the World Trade Center and that tragedy, the local finance notice was issued that allowed this similar 0% interest rate to be fixed for a period of time by municipalities. So while we cannot delay the time that you owe your taxes, there will not be a penalty assessed by this municipality for a late payment until a new resolution is passed that will be retroactive to May 1st. So, Council President, was I clear in the explanation, and do you have a firm and clear understanding of what I am trying to explain to Mr. Fernandez and the entire public here, as well as the entire council?
Right. So, Mayor, thank you for the explanation. Mr. Fernandez, and thank you for that question. Yes, it is very difficult economic times, so the mayor saw forth to present to the council this evening a way that residents can buy some time if they need to. However, if the need is not there, then your taxes should be paid because when the time does come, and it will, that the interest rate will be retroactive. So, Mayor, thank you for the explanation. I'm sure there's questions on behalf of the council, but we'll take that up when we get to your report again, when this is discussed, and the council could further have some questions and comments.
Very good. There's also an additional question from Mr. Fernandez, and it says, the last time I attended a meeting in person, I asked Mr. Cuccia if Mr. Cuccia could tell me the assessment on the green building on Clove Road, where before and after the tax appeal. I did not get my answer yet. And Mr. Fernandez, what I can, or Mr. Council President Scoba? Oh, that was the question.
Right. So, Mayor, let's get the information, but there is a way of getting that information. Mr. Fernandez, Mr. Crucio, can you explain how Mr. Fernandez can get that information?
The best way for us to do that is through an Oprah request, so we have it documented, and then we will forward Mr. Fernandez the information.
During this, let's say, time that people can't come to the municipal building, Mr. Crucio, how could Mr. Fernandez do that? Can he do it by phone, fax, or
He can do it by email.
by email? Okay. So, Mr. Fernandez, you can email that Oprah request. Is that a certain form that he has to get from Mrs. Kraus, or is that?
Not necessary.
Not necessary. If you have any issues with getting that, Mr. Fernandez, please reach out to Mrs. Kraus or Mr. Crucio. Mayor?
Yes, the next question this evening is from Raymond Kostrowski at 170 Donato Drive. Is the building project on hold because of the COVID-19, or is it scheduled for a future date that will be determined by the virus outcome?
Mayor, if you would explain, we all heard the governor say unnecessary building must come to a stop. Would you explain how building works under the municipality?
Sure. So this is another great opportunity for me to address Resolution A on this evening's agenda, the only two resolutions that we have this evening. And Resolution A, so that the public is clear, is the resolution awarding the contract for Duva Park Storage Building. And what that is referring to is a storage facility that is being constructed at Duva Field to hold all of the sports equipment for all of our youngsters that play sports, to provide additional room so that we have adequate space, and also to relocate the very small and old storage structure that is located where our pickleball courts will be going. The first step was to construct this storage unit so that all of the sports-related equipment can be relocated, to then construct the pickleball courts in front of the tennis courts over there. And to answer the question now as to whether or not this project can continue, the answer to that question is yes. All government-funded projects are permitted to continue under the current executive order. There are, again, stringent guidelines as to the number of individuals who may be working on site, what they're permitted to do and not, and the gear that they are required to wear. So based upon the executive order and the guidance that we currently have in place from the executive order, this construction is permitted. That said, to not rehash this in its entirety in just a few minutes, the bid, so that this can also be further clarified, came back at $199,189, was the lowest responsible bidder. And that bid was about 25% lower than we had anticipated or had estimated this project to cost. So that was very good news. We were thinking it would be somewhere around the $250,000 mark, and it came back just a hair under the $200,000 mark.
Thank you, Mayor. Are there any other correspondence for public matters?
Yes, there is, Council President, if you bear with me. The next is from Bob Dombrowski at 3 Garden Street in Little Falls. He said, "I just want to thank the mayor and town council for daily updates during this truly trying time."
You're welcome, Mr. Dombrowski. Thank you for your comment. Mayor, anything else?
Yes, there is one from Adam Rake. He indicated that he lives on East Main Street, and every night it sounds as if there is a race going up and down Long Hill Road starting at PV High School. Is there something that can be done to stop this?
Mayor, maybe you could have the chief of police look into this matter. I have to kind of concur, not in Little Falls, but in some other municipalities. I've heard this, where people now are starting to race their engines a little bit because thinking that law enforcement won't pull them over because of afraid of contracting, any virus. So maybe you could have the chief of police look into that matter and make sure that people are not drag racing up Long Hill Road. Anything else, Mayor?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's been a question that's been asked on a number of occasions, although not particular Although it wasn't sent directly to Ms. Kraus, to her email address as indicated, there was a comment that I believe could be addressed during this time, Council President, and it is a comment regarding whether or not schools will be reopened for the remainder of this year. And the only answer that I can provide to that is that currently, I'm not looking as the mayor of Little Falls to get into a fight with the governor of New Jersey, like some of our colleagues in New York are doing lately. But right now, I believe the best course of action will be to take some direction from the governor, who is looking, I know, to have some unified approach with some of the surrounding states. And I believe he has most recently indicated that he is looking to make a decision on that, I believe by sometime later this week. If it's not later this week, it may be the following week. But at this time, locally, there is no authority that we have locally to reopen the schools. So for now, I believe waiting for some direction from the state is the most prudent approach to take, at least for us right now.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. Does the council have any questions or comments regarding the questions that were raised tonight? Have a motion to close to public comment?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Coordinator, second.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Vanchery. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. Okay, so we're going to go back again, basically, and Mayor, we're going to talk about the award for contract for Duva Park Storage Building, which I know you've talked, but we'll talk about it again, and establishing the rate of interest for delinquent taxes. So, Mayor?
Sure. So as I indicated, the storage structure can continue as far as the construction and going out the bid. As I indicated, it did come in about $50,000 lower than originally estimated, with the lowest responsible bidder coming in at $199,189. And if there are any questions that I may be able to answer for yourself or the council, I would be happy to do so.
Council, do you have any questions regarding the award of the Duva Park Storage Building? This is tied into the pickleboard court that we've been working on. Okay, Mayor, item number 2.
Sure. Item number 2, as I indicated, is establishing the rate of interest for delinquent taxes at 0%, as I had just discussed. I believe this is something that we can do to assist our residents here in Little Falls, who I know, many of whom are going through some extremely trying times financially. It is something that, again, is, I think, the least we can do in these trying times. The issue that we do face here locally is that government still needs to continue to work. So collecting taxes is a concern that has been raised by myself, by our very own business administrator, as well as mayors and business administrators and finance individuals throughout the state, as far as how do we continue to operate without collecting taxes, which is the only way that we pay all of our local employees, that we make our payment to the county, that we are able to pay all of our teachers and schools their portions. So while I am fearful of what may come of this, I believe this is something that we can do and should do for our residents, and that is why we have this here.
Okay, Council, do you have questions, comments regarding establishing rate of interest for delinquent taxes?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay, this is Councilmember Coordinator?
Yes.
Go ahead, Councilmember.
Mayor Damiano, first, thank you for coming up with this proposal, and thank Mr. Cuccia. I think it's really important to help ease the financial burden of residents affected by this, terrible health epidemic. So I understand how it works for residents who pay their taxes directly. But what would be the recourse for those residents who have a mortgage and their taxes are paid through the bank? I understand that the governor has put forth in his directive a moratorium for a hold on paying mortgages for, I think, 3 months. But I'm not sure if all banks have signed on to that. And would there be a way for some residents who perhaps would want to keep paying their mortgage but have a little breathing space on their taxes?
Okay, Mayor, Mr. Cuccia, would you like to? Mayor?
Sure, I can start by explaining that I believe the banks who have typically included the escrow amounts for taxes and insurance. I guess unfortunately, that's going to have to be bank by bank with their particular lendees. The lenders are going to have to decide and determine how that will work for them. Right now, we are hoping as a municipality to collect most, if not all, of our taxes that we would normally collect from the lending institutions, and that makes up about 70% of the total taxes paid to the municipality is paid by various lending institutions where they escrow the homeowners' taxes as part of their payment. Unfortunately, Councilwoman, I'm not sure how a lender would deal with receiving a partial payment and a lendee indicating to them that what they paid was the portion towards the mortgage itself, but not the taxes portion of what they escrow. Mr. Cucci, do you have something to add in that regard?
In the governor's executive order, he discussed a certain number, I believe it was around 50 banks that they had made arrangements with. And it led me to believe that the banks that were not in that list you'd have to go to your lender and make an arrangement with them. The resolution as it stands affects mortgage companies as well as private taxpayers.
So if a mortgage, right, so if a bank doesn't want to pay the taxes, they won't be charged the interest rate, it'll be retroactive, is that correct?
Correct.
So, are you feeling, Councilwoman Coordinator, that this is not appropriate with the fact that people
No.
pay directly, or that there's no say in delaying the tax payments with the bank or mortgage companies?
No, I really just wanted clarification, particularly if residents would see this resolution and do have a mortgage and just have an understanding of what their recourse would be. So my understanding is it goes back to the resolution from the governor, and they would then work with their individual mortgage holder.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Very good question. Are there any other questions or comments from council members? Like
I have a question.
Council Member Vanchery?
Yeah, Mayor and Mr. Cuccia, knowing that a lot of times when we put out information, whether it's through social media or the township website, we typically hear that some residents don't go on social media, don't go on the website. Can we make sure, considering maybe sending out a letter to the residents to make sure everybody gets that notification?
We in fact will be required to do that.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Sieber?
Yeah. So my question is about reassessing this ordinance down the road and what metrics we would use to reassess. You know, is it health-based? Is it, state of our economy? At what point would we be taking an interest to reassess you?
So Mayor, at what point are you going to come back to the council and say, let's do away with this resolution?
So that's a very valid point. I will tell you, while it is extremely valid and something that I think should have a lot of consideration, for me right now, it's almost putting the cart in front of the horse. I haven't thought that far ahead. This is something that I think, and again, it's very valid and it should be considered and discussed. I think this is something that, as a collective council at a meeting, or at each meeting hereafter maybe, we should have some discussion regarding this particular issue once at least the pandemic begins to lessen. I don't know that in 2 weeks from now, a full discussion as to whether or not we should be modifying this may need to occur. But again, as we see the pandemic and restrictions beginning to lift, I believe that the council as a whole during, public meetings should have conversation about this particular issue. This is certainly, again, something that we're doing to help the residents. It's not the intent, I don't think, by at least myself or anyone on this council to blindside our residents and say, well, now there's interest, we got you, now you have to pay it all. I don't believe that's the intention here. Where I think this is being done out of the goodness of the hearts of what we are permitted to do on the local level. So very valid point. And again, I think something that should be discussed as we proceed. But I don't have an answer. I think a combination of everything that you said, whether it be financial, whether it be virus-based, whether it be economic, whatever it may be, all of those things will be taken into consideration at the time before any real decision is made on this particular topic.
Thank you, Mayor. Does that answer your question, Councilmember Seaver?
Yes, thank you.
Councilmember Kwadi, do you have any input here?
I do. I think this is a great policy. I think it's probably going to benefit our seniors disproportionately, which I'm very much in favor of. I think that there are going to be a lot of people who are going to need a policy like this. My concern is that if somebody is just fiscally savvy, they may try to take advantage of this. And I want to ask our residents not to do that. If you are still gainfully employed and collecting a check like you have, I want to ask those residents to please continue to pay your taxes on time. Don't take advantage of this particular benefit that we're doing for people who really need it. And regarding the letter that Councilman Vanchery brought up, I think it should be explicitly clear in that letter that at a certain point, you will be charged retroactively for your taxes if you haven't paid them by the time the policy changes. I think it's very important to note that to avoid having people use this just as what they consider to be a smart fiscal policy to not pay their taxes all of a sudden.
That's well said. So, Mr. Kusia and Mayor, if Mrs. Smith, whose house is paid for and doesn't have a mortgage, her tax bill is $12,000 a year. So her tax payment come May 1st is $3,000. And because of hardship, she decides not to pay the $3,000 and hold back. Come August 1st, things drastically change for the better. Testing is out, economic situations have changed. The mayor comes to the council and say, we want to do away with this ordinance that we may pass tonight. She will be assessed then, is it 18% for that $3,000 over the 3 months? Is that correct?
8% on the...
I'm sorry, 8%. I don't know where I'm getting it.
Yeah, no, you're correct. It's 8% on the first 1,500
Right.
and 18% on any amount over that.
Right, so 8% on the first 1,500 and then 18% on the other 1,500. Her tax bill is 3,000.
Right.
Is that okay, right?
If you go back to that,
Right.
those original.
So the interest, and this is where it gets a little confusing, is still going to be tacked on. And unless somebody can make more than that somewhere else, then it's better to pay their taxes. However, it is a little, I think, confusing to think that the residents may think that they don't have to pay. They're getting, I hate to use this word, but a free ride of interest for until the next tax period.
Council President, this incorporated with the discussions that are taking place at the I'm saying it wrong, the legislators right now.
Right.
We don't know where they're going to land. They have a number of plans that they're reviewing. Some of those plans may affect this, some of them may not, but we're taking the first step locally so that when we hear from the state, we'll be able to mold that into what the entire plan will be.
Right, and I concur with that statement. I think it's great that the mayor has presented us this plan, but I do want to go back, I do want the public to understand, as well as myself, that the interest is still going to be there. It's a delay of interest, but it still has to be paid to the township. Is that not correct?
It's partly correct in that as long as Ms. Smith were to make that $3,000 payment prior to a new resolution being issued,
Right.
reestablishing the interest, she would not have to pay it. So for example, if Ms. Smith pays that by August 1st, like you'd indicated, and it's not till September that we pass the resolution reinstituting taxes, she will not be assessed the interest.
Okay, then it would be an interest-free loan.
Quarter. It would be an
Quarter, or a
interest-free
period of
quarter.
time that the council, until the council puts the new ordinance in place.
Correct. It's only if
Right.
the payment is not made by the time the new resolution amending this 0% is reinstituted.
So does the council members fully understand how this works? If not, please ask questions.
Yes.
Go ahead, Councilmember Councilmember Coordinator, you were asking something?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes. Mayor Damiano, would you have a particular length of time in mind? For instance, would it be 2 weeks before, a resolution would be passed reinstating the institution of a penalty, but there would be a 2-week date put on that? Meanwhile, for instance, in the middle of July, we had a council meeting. We passed a new ordinance reinstating the interest rates, but that would go into effect as of August 1st if you didn't pay what you owed. So they'd have enough time to know that they had to pay.
Council President.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Kusia, go ahead, answer the question.
Councilmember Coordinator, we would have to look at the situation as it is at the time in July to make that determination, whether or not the financial problems...
I was using that as just an example. I was just threw that date out. I just want to make sure that residents would have enough time to know that whatever taxes they owed in arrears, they had to pay before they would get that tax penalty.
Yes, we would send delinquent notices as we do now. The process does not change.
Okay.
Do we have to renotice?
Renotice?
Does the public get a second notice before the new resolution? No.
Yes.
No, they would get a notice
Only-
on the resolution.
Right.
Okay, Mayor, can you just repeat that, please, for...
Sure. The question about, and Mr. Cucci, you might be able to assist, when delinquent notices are sent, if a date for a resolution being passed or being considered is discussed, can that date be included on the delinquency notice?
Yes, it can.
So then, Councilmember Quadri, your point's well taken, that people, if they're savvy, they could kind of work this system to their favor. And we're hoping that that's not the intent of this, but it was a point well taken. Any other questions or comments regarding item number 1 or 2, the award contract or the establishing rate of interest? Okay. Have a motion to approve Resolution A and B.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Coordinator, second by Councilmember Kawadi. Mrs. Kraus, please call the roll for Resolutions A and B.
Councilmember Coordinator?
Yes.
Councilmember Kawadi?
Yes.
Councilmember Sieber,
Yes.
Councilmember Vanchery?
Yes.
Council President Scoba?
Yes. Mrs. Kraus, at this time, can you read ordinance 1381?
Second reading and public hearing of ordinance number 1381, an ordinance entitled Refunding Bond Ordinance Providing for the Funding of a $750,876 Emergency Temporary Appropriation for Tax Appeals in by and for the Township of Little Falls in the County of Passaic, New Jersey, and authorizing the issuance of $790,000 of bonds or notes to finance such emergency temporary appropriation.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to open to public hearing regarding ordinance 1381?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Coordinator,
Second.
second by Councilmember Vanchery. Mrs. Kraus, please call for public hearing on ordinance 1381, the roll call.
Councilmember Coordinator?
Wait, no.
Yes.
Councilmember Kawadi?
Yes.
Councilmember Sieber,
Yes.
Councilmember Vanchery?
Yes.
Council President Scoba?
Yes. Mrs. Kraus, have we received any public comments regarding this ordinance?
No, we have not.
Can I have a motion to close the public hearing regarding 1381?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Coordinator, second by Councilmember Sieber. Mrs. Kraus, please call the roll for closing the hearing on ordinance 1381.
Councilmember Coordinator?
Yes.
Councilmember Kawadi?
Yes.
Councilmember Sieber,
Yes.
Councilmember Vanchery,
Yes.
Council President Scoba.
Yes. So normally at this time, we would take a roll to approve this ordinance, but we're not going to be doing that. There's a little issue with the local finance board. Mr. Crucio, you want to enlighten us why we're not taking a vote?
I spoke with bond counsel today to find out whether or not the local finance board has met virtually. Apparently, they have not, and we are waiting for them to review the application that we've put in for this process, and until they do that, he suggests that we hold the vote. We'd like to hear what they have to say first before we adopt the ordinance.
Does council have any questions regarding why we're not voting on this, on ordinance 1381, as it was explained by Mr. Crucio? Thank you. Councilmember Quadri?
Thank you, Council President. It's been an interesting 3 weeks, not in a good way. The stay-at-home order is certainly taking its toll on the members of the township, and so I just want to start off by thanking the town employees, the police department, the firefighters, the EMTs, DPW, the medical personnel that are helping us to get through this. The teachers are doing a great job, and the school administrators as well, and so my appreciation goes out to them. The Domestic Violence Prevention Committee, we actually did meet last Tuesday through Zoom. They are a diligent group, and they're quite aware that the current situation may exacerbate any issues with domestic violence. So we are being diligent about making sure that there's information out there so that people know that they are not alone and that there is help available to them. If you look at the mayor's COVID update, there are phone numbers in there. Obviously, in an emergency situation, one should always call 911. But if someone has questions about whether or not they are in a healthy environment and relationship, I encourage them to reach out to some of the other phone numbers for help. As we have talked about in the past, the Green Fair was supposed to be held this Saturday. It is postponed indefinitely. I hope that we may reschedule it at some point when we return to normalcy. The same for the town cleanup. That would have happened this spring, but for right now, they're on hold. And lastly, I just want to address, Mike Burke's passing is such a terrible loss to our township. Besides being a dedicated servant to the community and president of the Little Falls Fire Department, Mike was he's just a great guy, and he was so well liked in town. And so I want to extend my condolences to his family and friends, everyone that worked with him, particularly the members of the Little Falls Fire Department, where I know his leadership is going to be missed. I personally am going to miss seeing him around town, that big smile he always had to greet everybody. This is a huge loss for our township and a really sad day for Little Falls. And so we're going to miss him. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Quadri, for your thoughtfulness concerning Mike Burke. Councilmember Vanchery?
Thanks, Council President. First I want to start off and just express my sympathies as well for Mike Burke on his passing today. My heart goes out to his family as well as members of the fire department. Mike was a great guy, like Councilman Quadri said. He was always there no matter what. And I can tell you the last 3 years working with him on the Memorial Day parade as well as the 9/11 ceremonies, it would just make a phone call or send him an email, and Mike would always say, "Don't worry, it's all taken care of." He was that type of guy. He's definitely going to be missed, and in these times, it's tough when you see people lose the battle over this. So again, my thoughts and prayers go out to him and his family. Just a few updates on my end. Obviously, there were some things that were planned with town halls and stuff, but all that stuff has been put on hold in light of everything that's going on. I did also reach out to the veterans to talk about the Memorial Day weekend activities, including the parade. Haven't officially canceled it yet, but it looks likely, just once we hear more from the governor this week about timing, But I did talk to the veterans about possibly doing something different instead of having the parade, which we can always reschedule later this year, is doing similar to what some of the churches have been doing, where you could have a Facebook Live ceremony, because, again, with Memorial Day, it is all about recognizing the men and women who gave the ultimate sacrifice to protect our way of freedom. So we want to make sure that we can do something to honor that memory. So we're working through that to possibly do something on the Legion's website, to do a Facebook Live. So hopefully I'll have more details in the coming weeks. And I just want to say, I mean, as we talk about it now, you know, we're looking at about a month or so since everything has changed, and just want to thank all the first responders, the folks from the Little Falls Fire Department, the police department, the EMS workers, everyone that's been working around the clock to help those in need. Also, as Councilman Quaddy said, you know, to our schools, I mean, it's a new reality for many of us with kids, you know, where the parents are now the teachers, but, you know, just the way that they prepared for this and the work that the kids receive day in, day out, really grateful for it. Because, you know, when you're also trying to do your job as well, you know the kids have a job to do, so it's good to know that they're in a good place with the schools. The one thing I do want to mention, I know someone sent an email about some of the speeding that's going through. Just a friendly reminder, too, for residents. You know, we've seen a lot of posts from different businesses that have said that people, when they leave the stores, they discard their gloves right on the floor. I mean, I think a nice reminder is, look, just discard them when you get home, or go to one of the many trash bins that are in the area. Don't leave them on the floor. It's not a good look. And I know I've seen some posts today, too, about folks walking their dogs. You know, same rules apply. You know, pick up after your dogs. Please don't leave a mess. I mean, it's just not cool to see that when residents are putting signs on the ground to let you know not to do that in their neighborhood. So appreciate that people still do their due diligence during this time. And that's it. And again, just everyone stay safe, and, you know, hopefully things will change in the coming weeks or months or so, where we can sort of do the things that we miss the most. That's it for me.
Thank you, Councilmember Vanchery. Councilmember Sieber.
Thank you. Again, my condolences to Mike and his a very extended family, but related or through our community. And also, just wanted to send our condolences out, even beyond that, to the many that have already lost their lives in the state of New Jersey. I think we've all have been touched personally by this virus in many different ways. And I do know that we will persevere. We just need to continue together. I think that's also probably one of my public pleas that, you know, as a professional retail worker, I am quite shocked to still see how many people are out and about and going into retail establishments without masks. And I know that retail establishments are now turning people away at the door. So please, I do urge all our residents to continue to protect themselves, continue to protect those of others, and to wear their face coverings at all times when you're outside in public and going into retail establishments. And then on the other side, just to report library board, we did not meet, nor did the Municipal Alliance, due to our current state. However, we are still continuing to process, the library board is still continuing to process all bills and such as necessary. So that is still going, even though the library is not open for business at times. But again, continue to read online if anything else happens. That is it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Sieber. Councilmember Cornier.
Yes, thank you, Council President. I too want to add my condolences to the friends and family of Mike Burke. It's a very, very sad loss for our township. But let me also say, it's during times like this, during difficult times like this, that you do step back and realize how blessed we are as a community that really stays together, and how blessed we are with our police force, our fire department, our EMS workers, our township administration, that they help us to have as normal as possible a life during these difficult times, as well as a terrific job by our schools. So I did stop and think about this past weekend, that we are truly blessed as a community, and just, you know, pray that we get through this united, alone together as quickly as possible. There were, of course, no meetings of the Senior Advisory Board or the Open Space Committee. However, the Little Falls Business Association is meeting weekly via a Zoom meeting. It's been very productive, as are small businesses, which we know are the lifeblood of not only our town but our state, meet together to help each other figure out ways to continue to do business, figure out ways to help each other stay safe. And each week, the president of Little Falls Business Association, Kara Winnick, is trying to bring a different expert to the meeting in order to give help and ideas to these small business owners how to survive during this difficult time. And I think that's really very creative and entrepreneurial of her to do. So if there are other business owners that aren't members, if you just look or join in on Little Falls Business Association Facebook post, you could ask permission to join in on these weekly meetings. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Councilmember, you are very correct in our dedicated police force, fire department, and EMT and municipal workers. We are very fortunate. You are definitely right in those words. Well said. As far as my quick report, your physical presence of the council members are definitely missed here at the dais, as well as Councilor Wenzel and Chief Post. And I hope the head of our DPW, Mr. Simone, is doing well with his crew. Although you've done an excellent job in being prepared for the meeting, and you do an excellent job all week long, or the 2 weeks prior to the meetings, calling me with questions and the communications, and I want to give a big shout out to the mayor for always cueing us in on exactly what's happening around town, so that we are as prepared as we can be for when certain situations arise, because they certainly arise very quickly. There is no game plan or for this, and as you listen to the governors and the president talk, it's moment by moment and day by day. So thank you to all the council members and to Mr. Wenzel and to Chief Post and to Mr. Simone. Mayor?
Thank you, Council President. Just a few closing remarks this evening. And first and foremost, I want to thank all of the employees of our town who have continued to keep us operational here, whether that be our administrative staff in this building or the rec center, whether that be our police department, who continues to do a tremendous job each and every day, who have continuously reported to work each and every day, and who are responding to calls each and every day. I want to thank them for what they do. I want to thank our fire department, who I constantly hear calls for help from, and they are constantly running to their trucks, running to these calls to help everybody in need. And our EMS crew, not only here in Little Falls, but our Little Falls EMS crew in Elmwood Park, where we are contractual with them. The number of calls that I constantly hear coming in with the COVID-like symptoms being reported is tremendous, and tremendous in the volume that I hear. And it's amazing to think that on the other end of each call where somebody's asking for help, there are several individuals that are running to that person to help them, knowing that that person likely has COVID-19. And I want to thank them for what they do each and every day in responding to these calls. Finally, I sent a letter to all seniors in town, and at least I hope it made it to almost all of the houses in town where there's an individual living over the age of 60. And I want to thank our police department for getting that done in a matter of 24 hours. 1,900 homes had a letter delivered to them by our police department where somebody over the age of 60 lives in a house. And I want to apologize to anyone who may not have gotten it, who fits that criteria. If you know someone who may need assistance, please have them reach out to me. We have had a countless number of individuals reach out to me. I put out one call for help on social media, and the number of people that responded offering to help from Little Falls has been absolutely incredible. I have paired all of the individuals who need help up with somebody who has offered to help, whether it's a quick run to ShopRite to help them with some shopping. There is one individual who has been an absolute godsend to a number of individuals in this town who are elderly, and I gave her the name of one individual thinking it might be a quick ShopRite run, and she would assist her in bringing her some food for her to prepare. And on a little bit of a lighter note this evening, she did such a tremendous job and started delivering some home-cooked meals that elderly individual shared her name with 4 other people, and she is now delivering home-cooked meals to 5 individuals in town on almost a daily basis and shopping for all of them. And I want to thank, again, all of our volunteers in town who have done this, who some of them I know are not even able to receive payment for what they're doing right now for the food that they've purchased, and they're okay with being reimbursed at some point in the future. It's been unbelievable, the outpour of assistance that people in this town have been willing to provide to others. And finally, on the absolute lightest note this evening, my hair has gotten so long that I've had to adopt a new hairstyle because I can no longer go with my old one. So I know there are a lot of people out there that are having issues with the smaller things. But with those right now, we need to laugh, brush them off, and do what's good for the greater good here and help flatten this curve and get us back on track. And that's all that I have, Council President.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Coordinator. Second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Vanchery. All those in favor of adjourning this meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. This meeting is now closed.
Should I get the audio?